17 November, Part 1. The email hit my phone at 6:12 a.m., just as I was packing my son's lunch for school. I remember because the notification banner froze me mid-reach, my hand still hovering over a bag of grapes. Urgent. Your credit report has been updated with new delinquent accounts. My chest tightened before I even opened it. I hadn't applied for anything new. I hadn't missed a payment. I hadn't so much as sneezed near a loan application in years. But when I tapped the link and the page loaded, my entire world tilted. A $68,000 personal loan. In my name. Approved. Defaulted. Collections initiated. I blinked at the screen, thinking maybe I'd clicked the wrong thing. Maybe my tired eyes were misreading. But then I saw it. My full name, my social security number, my address. All correct. All violated. I felt my knees wobble like they were trying to fold under the weight of a truth I couldn't yet process. A hot wave of fear crawled up my back. Oh God, no! My voice cracked in the quiet kitchen. I scrolled again, and that's when the next detail punched the air out of my lungs. The pickup location for the loan check. A warehouse shipping store on the east side of town. A place I'd only been once. And not for myself. I'd gone there with my brother, Marcus. The realization hit so fast, so violently, I had to grab the counter to keep upright. My baby brother, my only brother, the one I'd fed, sheltered, defended, and forgiven more times than I could count, had used me. He had used my identity. He had taken out a massive loan, vanished with the money, and left me drowning in the fallout without a single warning, apology, or explanation. Something inside my chest cracked wide open. My son Jalen wandered into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes. Mom, you okay? Yeah, baby. Go grab your backpack. Mommy's handling something. As soon as he left the room, my hand shook so badly I could barely pick up my phone again. I called the loan company immediately, pacing the kitchen floor. When the representative confirmed Marcus's signature, his messy, crooked scrawl that always looked like he wrote it on the move, I felt nauseous. But the part that truly broke me was the timestamp. He'd signed for it the same week he asked me for money for gas and groceries. I had cooked for him that night. I hugged him. I told him I loved him. And the whole time, he was planning this betrayal. I hung up, sat at the kitchen table, and let my hands fall over my face. Tears slid between my fingers. I wasn't just scared. I was humiliated, violated, angry, heartbroken, and I didn't have the luxury of falling apart because I had a son depending on me. I wiped my face, trying to think clearly. My credit score was destroyed overnight. The loan company said the debt was legally mine until I could prove fraud, which meant paperwork, police reports, months of stress, and bills I couldn't afford. But something deeper churned beneath the fear, a heavy, suffocating sense of betrayal. How could Marcus do this? After everything our mother sacrificed to raise us, after everything I sacrificed for him when she passed. I had bailed him out of trouble since he was 16, let him borrow my car, gave him couches to sleep on when he got evicted, loaned him money he never paid back, defended him to relatives who gave up on him years ago. He had always been fragile, always chasing fast money, always promising to change. But I never, not once, believed he would sink this low. I forced myself to breathe slowly. I had to get Jalen to school. I had to keep life moving. I had to function. But the second I dropped him off, I drove straight to Marcus's apartment complex. Only when I pulled up and saw the eviction notice taped to his door did a cold dread rush through me. He was gone. No furniture, no clothes, no forwarding address, just a hollow apartment, and a neighbor who shrugged and said he left in the middle of the night with 2 duffel bags and a woman I'd never heard of. The betrayal carved its way deeper into my chest. I walked back to my car feeling hollow, like someone had scooped out the inside of me. I sat behind the wheel, gripping it hard enough to hurt. That's when I noticed a black SUV parked 3 spaces over. Windows tinted, engine running, the driver, barely visible, watching me. At first I told myself I was imagining it. Stress was making me paranoid. But when I started the car and pulled out, the SUV eased forward too. My heart thudded painfully. I turned left. They turned left. I turned right. They turned right. My hands started shaking. This wasn't about a loan anymore. Something else was happening. Something Marcus had dragged me into without my consent, without my knowledge, and without any warning. I pulled into the first public place I could find, a grocery store lot, and parked fast. The SUV slowed, paused at the exit, then kept going. My whole body trembled as adrenaline drained from me. I sat there breathing hard, trying to steady myself. What had Marcus gotten into? Who else knew my name now? And what other damage had he done before disappearing into God knows where? One thing was becoming terrifyingly clear. Identity theft wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. And I wasn't safe. Not financially, not emotionally, not physically. I wiped my face, pulled myself together, and drove home. But the fear stayed with me, sharp, cold, and unrelenting. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't just about money. Marcus was running from something. And now, whatever he was running from was coming for me. 17 November, Part 2. I barely slept that night. Every sound outside my window made me jump. Every car slowing down on the street made my heart thump. I kept replaying that black SUV following me, trying to figure out who they were and what they wanted. By the time morning came, I felt like I'd aged 10 years overnight. I called into work and told them I had an emergency. I hated doing that, but I couldn't focus on anything other than protecting my identity, my home, and my son. First step, file a police report. I sat in the station's lobby with my paperwork in hand, my palms sweaty. When the officer called my name, he didn't look surprised, almost like identity theft victims came in every day. But when I explained that my own brother had stolen my identity, his eyebrows lifted with a mix of pity and judgment. So you're saying a family member used your information without permission? He asked, typing slowly. Yes, I said, swallowing the embarrassment that burned my throat. He forged my signature, took out a loan, disappeared. Do you have proof he signed for it? My stomach nodded. The bank has security footage, but they won't release it unless there's an active police investigation. He nodded and kept typing, asking more questions, each one making me feel smaller. By the time he printed the report and handed me the copy, I was emotionally drained. But then he said something that made my blood run cold. Ma'am, you said you were followed yesterday? Yes. Did you get a license plate? No, the windows were too dark. He paused, then leaned forward slightly. I'm going to give you some advice. If anyone approaches you, calls you unexpectedly, or shows up at your home, don't engage. Contact us immediately. That terrified me more than anything else. I left the station with shaky hands, clutching the report like it was a lifeline. I needed a plan. I needed answers. And I needed to start with the only person I knew Marcus had talked to recently, his ex-girlfriend, Tasha. Tasha lived on the south side, an old duplex that leaned like it was tired of standing up. When she opened the door and saw me, she froze. Oh, hell. I was hoping I wouldn't see you. That makes two of us. I just need answers. She let out a heavy breath and stepped aside. Come in, but I can't promise I know much. Her place smelled like incense and stale cigarettes. She sat on the edge of her couch, bouncing her leg nervously as I explained what Marcus had done. When I finished, she wiped her hands down her face. I told him this was going to catch up to him, she muttered. Told him straight up, you can't keep doing dirt like this forever. What dirt? I leaned forward. Tasha, please, I'm his sister. Whatever he's mixed up in, I need to know. She hesitated, chewing the inside of her cheek. Then she whispered, he's been running with people he shouldn't be running with. What people? Loan hustlers, identity guys, folks who front money and expect it back fast. And if they don't get it, things get ugly. My stomach flipped. So he used my name to borrow from them too? I don't know all the details, but he told me he needed clean names that weren't burned. Said he'd found a way to get them. That's all I know. My heart dropped. Did he say where he was going? No, just that he had to leave for a while. She looked at me sadly. He loves you. You know, he ain't right in the head. Anger flared up inside me. Do you know a black SUV following anybody connected to Marcus? Her eyes widened like I'd said a forbidden phrase. Oh, no. If they're watching you, that's bad. That's real bad. I felt the room tilt. Who are they? She stood and walked to the window, peeking through the blind. They call themselves the Ledger Crew. They're not a gang, not in the street sense. They collect debts, illegal ones, and they don't care who they hurt in the process. My breath caught. So you think Marcus owes them? I know he owes them, she whispered. He took money he wasn't supposed to take, disappeared with it, and now they're looking for him. A cold chill crawled up my spine. So why are they following me? I whispered. Tasha turned, her face filled with a dread so honest it made my skin prickle, because they think you know where he is. And if they don't find him, she swallowed hard, they'll come after whatever he left behind. A shaky breath escaped my lips. Which means me? Tasha nodded. I stood slowly, my knees weak. Tasha, if you hear from him, anything at all, you need to let me know. She looked guilty. I will, I promise. But when I turned toward the door, she grabbed my wrist suddenly. Wait, I looked back. She held out a small folded piece of paper. He told me to give you this if things went bad. I didn't know what that meant until now. My pulse quickened as I unfolded it. Inside was a single line written in Marcus's messy handwriting. Quote, if they find you, run. The room seemed to close in around me as my chest tightened, because now I knew one terrifying truth. I wasn't just trying to clear my name. I was trying to stay alive.
I didn't even realize I was holding my breath until I got back into my car. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely fit the key into the ignition. That little note from Marcus felt like a curse in my palm, burning straight through my skin. If they find you, run. What kind of mess had he dragged me into? I sat there for a moment, staring at the dashboard, trying to calm my racing heart. My son, Malik, kept flashing in my mind. His smile, his laughter, the way he hugged me before school. I had to keep him safe. Whatever storm Marcus had called down, I couldn't let it hit my child. I drove straight home, constantly checking my mirrors, convinced every car behind me had tinted windows. When I pulled into my driveway, I scanned the street before getting out. Nothing unusual. No black SUV, no shadows moving where they shouldn't be. Inside, the house felt too quiet, too still. I closed every curtain, locked every door, then sat at the kitchen table with the police report, the credit notices, and Marcus's note laid out in front of me. My entire life shattered in papers. I needed a plan. My first move was calling the bank again. This time I asked for a fraud investigator. After being transferred twice, a woman named Miss Carter answered. Her voice was calm, steady, the kind of voice that felt like a lifeline. Ma'am, she said after reviewing my file, this identity theft isn't random. Whoever did this had access to detailed personal data, birth dates, social security numbers, employment records. I swallowed. He's my brother. Silence. Then a quiet, sympathetic exhale. Miss Grant, this level of fraud usually involves more than one account. Have you checked every credit line you have? The question hit me with a cold slap. I hadn't. I'd been too overwhelmed, too scared. I can help you check, she offered. We went through everything, account by account, line by line, and with each new discovery, my stomach twisted tighter. Marcus hadn't just taken out a $68,000 loan. He'd opened 2 credit cards, applied for a refinancing offer on my home, and attempted to access my retirement account. My mouth went dry. He tried to take my house? Everything was flagged before it went through, she said. But it's clear he intended to drain as much as possible. I felt like I might throw up. Why would he do this to me? I can't answer that, she said softly, but I can tell you something else. I waited, dread curling up my spine. The loan you're seeing, the $68,000, wasn't deposited into a normal account. It was wired into an encrypted digital wallet. That's usually associated with off-the-book lenders. My breath hitched. Like people who don't use banks? Correct. Which means whoever loaned him this money is expecting it back. And if they know it's in your name, they may see you as responsible. Her words lodged in my chest like glass. And there's something else, she added. The security footage from the loan office. The bank manager viewed it. It wasn't just your brother there. A chill ripped down my spine. Who else was with him? We don't know. The individual kept his hood up and most of his face was obscured, but he's significantly larger than your brother. My pulse thudded loudly in my ears. Miss Grant, Whoever that person is, they weren't assisting him. They were controlling the situation. A new terror bloomed in my stomach. Marcus didn't just steal from me. He'd gotten involved with someone dangerous. Someone who now probably believed I was part of this mess. When I hung up, I felt hollow. Shocked, betrayed all over again. I was still sitting at the table, trying not to fall apart when my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I stared at it frozen. It buzzed again. My breath trembled as I answered. Hello? A low voice male spilled through the line. Miss Grant, he said calmly. Too calmly. We need to talk about your brother. My heart slammed against my ribs. Who is this? I whispered. You know exactly who I am. And I think you also know that running won't change anything. My chest tightened. We'll see you soon. The line went dead. My phone slipped from my hand and clattered onto the table. And that's when I realized something even worse. The call didn't come to my personal cell. It came to my house phone. They knew where I lived.
The moment I realized that call came to my house phone, a cold tremor spread through my whole body. Not because it was unexpected, but because it meant they weren't just watching me. They were already inside my world. My address, my landline, my routine, everything. I backed away from the table slowly, like the walls might close in on me if I moved too fast. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears, sharp and loud like footsteps coming down a hallway. My first instinct was to grab Malik and run, pack a bag, get in the car, and just drive until the fear fell off me like old skin. But I couldn't move yet. Not without a plan, not without knowing what these men wanted, and not without understanding exactly how much danger we were in. I reached for the window blinds and peeked outside. Nothing. Just the usual. The Whitaker kids riding their bikes, Mrs. Turner watering her hydrangeas. The world looked normal, but I no longer trusted normal. Not after everything. I picked up my cell phone and called Malik's school. Hi, this is Mrs. Grant. I'm picking my son up today, early, something urgent. As soon as Malik was safe with me, I'd breathe easier, only slightly, but it would be something. I grabbed my purse and keys, locked the house behind me, and kept scanning the street as I drove to the school. Every car felt suspicious. Every driver looked like a shadow with motives I didn't want to imagine. When I finally saw Malik walking toward the car with his backpack bouncing against him, my eyes filled with relief. Mom, he asked as he got in, why am I leaving early? I just missed you. I lied with a smile. Thought we could spend the afternoon together. He smiled. Innocent, unaware that danger had begun circling us like vultures. Back home, I double-checked every lock on the doors. Then I sat Malik at the kitchen counter with his favorite snacks and tried my best to act normal. Mom, you okay? He asked, his brows pulling together. Just tired, I said softly. Long week. He nodded and turned on the TV, lost in his cartoons. I pulled out my cell phone again. I didn't know who else to call, but there was one person who always picked up even when we drifted apart, my older cousin, Renee. She answered on the second ring. Hey girl, everything all right? The sound of her voice almost broke me. We hadn't been close since my mother passed, but she always felt like solid ground. No, I whispered. What happened? I told her everything. The loan, the stolen identity, the black SUV, the strange call, the note from Marcus. Every word came out, tangled with fear and anger. When she finished, the line went quiet. Renee, you still there? Yeah, she said, her voice low but steady. Listen to me. You need to get out of that house. I can't leave, not without knowing what... No. She snapped gently. You don't understand. Those men, they don't follow the law. They don't leave warnings. If they called your house phone, that means they've already been digging. My breath hitched. So what should I do? I have Malik with me. I can't pack a bag. You and Malik come stay with me tonight. It's crowded, but we'll make it work. That house ain't safe right now. I looked around at my kitchen, the memories hanging in every corner, feeling like losing another part of myself, but staying could cost me everything. All right,
I whispered. We'll come. Good. And bring every document you got on this. We're gonna fix it. After we hung up, I tried to steady myself. Malik ran upstairs to grab his tablet while I packed clothes, birth certificates, bills, and every piece of evidence that tied Marcus's mess to my name. But while stuffing documents into a folder, something caught my eye. The living room window. The curtain had shifted just slightly. My pulse quickened. As I moved closer, each step feeling heavier than the last, I reached out slowly and peeled the curtain back a sliver and nearly screamed. A man stood across the street beside a black SUV, leaning against the hood like he owned the whole neighborhood. His posture was relaxed, hands in his pockets, but his eyes, they were locked on my house, locked on me. He didn't look away when I saw him, didn't flinch, didn't pretend, just stared like he wanted me to know he was there, like he wanted me afraid. I dropped the curtain so fast it slapped against the window frame. My heart pounded violently, adrenaline flooding my veins. I rushed upstairs, grabbed Malik, and whispered urgently, "We're leaving now." He didn't ask questions, just followed, sensing the fear in my voice. We hurried out the back door, moving quickly through the yard. I kept checking over my shoulder, convinced the man would appear any second. We reached the car, and I shoved the bags inside with trembling hands. My fingers fumbled with the key, but eventually the engine roared to life. I backed out fast, eyes scanning for any sign of the SUV. Nothing, but the dread sat heavy on my chest. We pulled out onto the main road, and I finally let myself breathe again. Malik played a game on his tablet, oblivious, but when I stopped at a red light, I checked my rearview mirror and froze. A black SUV turned onto the street behind us. Same model, same tinted windows. It kept a steady distance, but it didn't turn, didn't pass, didn't waver. It followed. My palms went slick on the steering wheel. "Mom?" Malik asked quietly. "Why are you driving so fast?" I forced my voice to steady. "Just trying to beat traffic, baby." I made a sudden right turn. The SUV turned too. My stomach hollowed out. I made a left. The SUV followed. My pulse hammered in my ears. We were being hunted. I pressed down on the gas, heart in my throat, trying not to panic in front of my son. Renee's neighborhood was still minutes away, too far, too exposed, too risky. Then Malik whispered, voice trembling, "Mom, I'm scared." I swallowed hard, and that's when the SUV sped up, closing in fast.
The SUV closed the distance between us so fast, my breath caught in my chest. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel, every nerve in my body screaming for me to protect my child. The road ahead stretched long and empty. Too exposed, too quiet. Malik clutched his seatbelt, his eyes wide with fear. This wasn't supposed to be his life. He didn't deserve any of this chaos. "Mom, what do we do?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I scanned the road, searching for any escape route. "Hold on," I said, trying to sound calm even though my heart was pounding like it wanted out of my chest. I made a sharp left onto a side street, praying the sudden move would shake them. The SUV followed. No hesitation, no pause, just cold purpose. My mind raced. I couldn't drive straight to Renee's house. I couldn't lead danger to her door. I needed to think fast. Up ahead, I spotted a large grocery store parking lot. Cars, people, cameras, witnesses, safety, or at least a buffer. I turned in abruptly, tires screeching. The SUV hesitated for the first time, just a flicker of uncertainty, then rolled in behind us, slow and deliberate. "Malik," I said, keeping my eyes on the mirror, "take your backpack and get ready to get out when I say. But listen to me. If I tell you to run, you run into the store and don't stop until you see someone working there. Do you understand?" His chin wobbled, but he nodded. I pulled into a spot near the front entrance and kept the engine running. The SUV parked 5 spaces away, at an angle, facing us, like a wolf watching its prey. A tall man stepped out, same silhouette I'd seen across the street at my house. Broad shoulders, dark clothes, hands relaxed but controlled, like he knew he didn't have to rush. He started walking toward us. My breath hitched. "Malik, get ready." The man got closer, his steps steady, eyes unreadable. Then, as if someone pressed pause on the world, another car suddenly pulled in between us. A woman jumped out, juggling a baby carrier and diaper bag, oblivious to the danger she'd just stepped into. She walked right in front of the man, forcing him to stop. He stiffened, adjusting his path, and walked around her. That split second was all I needed. "Go," I whispered. Malik bolted out of the car and ran straight toward the entrance. The man's head snapped toward him, then toward me, calculating. I hit the gas. My tires squealed as I sped across the parking lot, weaving between cars, trying to create distance. The man turned back toward the SUV, but I didn't wait to see if he got inside. I drove straight around the building and parked on the far side, hidden behind a loading dock. Malik was safe inside. That was all that mattered for the moment. My hands shook violently as I clutched the wheel. My breathing came in short, panicked bursts. Everything around me felt too loud. The hum of refrigeration units, the distant wheel of shopping carts. I finally forced myself to pull out my phone. I needed help. Real help. I dialed the police again. When the operator answered, I spoke fast, frantic. My name is Naomi Grant. I'm being followed by a man connected to an identity theft case. He's at the Maple Parkway grocery store. Please send him one. She asked for details, for descriptions, for my location. I gave everything, my voice trembling so badly I had to stop twice to breathe. We're dispatching officers now, she said. Stay where you are if you're safe. Safe! A word that felt foreign. I hung up and waited, minutes stretching like hours. Every sound made me jump. Every car passing nearby made my heart leap into my throat. Then, through a gap between dumpsters, I saw them, 2 police cruisers pulling into the lot. They stopped near the front entrance and officers stepped out. I watched, my stomach knotted as they approached the area where the SUV had been. The SUV was gone, completely gone. I exhaled in frustration and fear, gripping my steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Whoever that man was, he knew when to disappear. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your running won't save you. My blood turned to ice. I deleted the message instantly. Then another one arrived. But you're smart. I like that. My hands trembled. Tears welled in my eyes, mixing fear and rage. I stepped out of my car and headed toward the entrance. I needed to get Malik and get out of here before those men doubled back. Inside, I found him sitting with a store employee, swinging his legs nervously. When he saw me, he ran into my arms. I was so scared. I know, baby, I murmured, hugging him tightly. But you did everything right. I pulled back and wiped his face gently. We're going somewhere safe. Before we could leave, an officer approached us. Ms. Brandt? Yes. We didn't find the SUV you described, but the store cameras picked up a man fitting your description. He walked around the lot for a while and then left. Did he say anything? Did he do anything? No, the officer said. Just watched. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. We'll file a report, he continued, and increase patrols in your area. That won't stop them, I whispered. Ma'am? Nothing. I shook my head. Thank you. I walked Malik back to the car. As I buckled him in, his small hand grabbed my wrist. Mom, are we going to be okay? I forced myself to smile. Yes, I whispered, but deep down, I wasn't sure. As I drove out of the parking lot, heading toward Renee's house, I checked my mirror one last time. No SUV, no shadow, nothing. But the fear stayed lodged under my ribs. And when we turned onto the highway, my phone buzzed again. One more message. We'll talk soon. I swallowed hard, because the truth was clear now. This wasn't just about finding Marcus anymore. This was about surviving whatever, whoever he had dragged into our lives.
By the time I turned onto Renee's street, my nerves felt like exposed wires sparking inside my chest. Every mailbox looked like a hiding place, every parked car like a threat. But Renee's house? That old blue 2-story with the peeling shutters and wind chimes that never stopped ringing finally came into view. I exhaled shakily, gripping the wheel until the tension eased just a little. Malik leaned forward in his seat. We're staying here for a little while, I said softly, just until things calmed down. He nodded, but I could see the fear still tucked behind his eyes. I hated that this mess was changing him, making him afraid of shadows, teaching him that the world wasn't always safe, but I'd protect him with everything I had left, even if that meant uprooting our lives. Renee rushed onto the porch as soon as I parked. She wore a robe and slippers, her hair wrapped in a scarf, but her expression was fierce. Come inside, she called. Hurry. We grabbed our bags and she pulled us in before I could even close the door behind me. Once we were inside, she locked the door twice, then peered out the window like she expected someone to be right behind us. You didn't see anybody following you? I said, not after the grocery store, but that doesn't mean they're not out there. She shook her head and pulled me into a hug. Tight, grounding, familiar. Girl, you should have called me the moment this started. I thought I could handle it. You don't handle criminals alone. Not
Eva. She ushered Malik into the living room where her kids were playing video games. They welcomed him easily, like cousins do, and for a moment I felt a tiny flicker of relief seeing him smile. "Come on," she said. "We need to talk." We stepped into the kitchen and I spread out the folder of documents on her table. The police report, the credit notices, the fraudulent loan agreements. Renee looked through everything slowly, her lips tightening the more she read. "Marcus did all this?" She finally whispered, shaking her head. "I swear, that boy always had one foot in the gutter. But this is different. This is dangerous." She reached inside a drawer, pulled out a small notebook, and started writing names and numbers down. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Making a list. People we can talk to. People who might know where Marcus is or who he was mixed up with." "Like who?" "Old neighbors, friends he used to run with, his old job, and," she hesitated, "his mama's side of the family." I froze. "You mean Aunt Shirley?" Renee nodded. "She always tried to cover for him, tried to save him. If anybody would know what trouble he's gotten into, it's her." The thought made my stomach churn. Aunt Shirley had always treated Marcus like the golden child, even when he stole, lied, or fought everyone around him. She made excuses for him like it was her job. But if she knew something, anything, I needed to hear it. "We can't go tonight," Renee said. "It's too late and you're too shaken. But first thing in the morning, we're paying her a visit." I nodded slowly, though dread gnawed at me. Confronting Aunt Shirley was like walking into a nest of hornets, but I had no choice. Renee poured me a glass of water and I sank into a chair, my body finally feeling the weight of the day. My hands trembled slightly as I picked up the glass. "Naomi," she said softly, sitting across from me, "there's something else you need to think about." I looked up, bracing myself. "If these men are looking for Marcus and they think you know where he is, they're going to get desperate. And desperate men do stupid things." My throat tightened. "What are you saying?" "You need protection. Real protection." I darted my eyes toward Malik in the living room. The kids were laughing, oblivious. The sound felt so far away from the storm I was standing in. "I don't know how to protect us from people like this. I can't sleep with my eyes open." Renee reached across the table and took my hand. "You're not alone. Not anymore. You hear me?" I nodded, swallowing hard. Then she said something that made a chill crawl up my spine. "And I'll tell you something else. If those men think you're worth watching, then they're already closer than you think." I blinked, confused and alarmed. "What do you mean?" Renee's expression hardened as she stared toward her front window. "There's a car parked across the street, a dark sedan I've never seen before." My stomach dropped. "You think they followed us here?" "I don't know, but I'm not taking chances." She stood, walked to the window, and pulled the curtain back just enough to peek outside. I held my breath, waiting for her reaction. Her body went still, too still. "Renee," I whispered, "what do you see?" She didn't speak for a moment. Then, with a trembling voice, she whispered, "There's a car parked across the street, a dark sedan I've never seen before." My pulse thundered in my ears. "Is anyone in it?" Renee exhaled shakily. "Oh yes. Someone's in it." My heart slammed against my ribcage. "Who?" I whispered. Renee slowly closed the curtain, turned to me with wide eyes, and said, "I don't know who he is, but he ain't blinking. He's just staring at the house." A cold tremor shot through me, and then a knock echoed through the front door. Slow, heavy, intentional. Renee and I froze. We stared at each other. Terror lodged in our throats. Then another knock came, louder, deeper, insistent. Malik looked up from the living room wide-eyed. "Mom, someone's here." I stood slowly, fear gripping every inch of me as the knocking continued. Whoever was out there, they weren't just watching anymore. They were coming.
The knocking didn't stop. It grew heavier, more deliberate, each thud rattling the frame of the door like whoever stood outside wasn't just asking to be let in, but warning us they could come in whether we allowed it or not. Renee held a finger to her lips and whispered, "Don't move." Malik froze. Her kids froze. Even the wind chimes outside seemed to go silent. Another knock echoed through the house. Boom, boom, boom. My heart slammed against my ribs. What if it's the police? I whispered. Renee shook her head. Police don't knock like that. She crept toward the front window, bent low, and carefully lifted the curtain just an inch. I waited, breath burning in my lungs. Finally, she let the fabric fall back into place and whispered, "It's not the same man from the car." A chill crawled up my spine. Then who is it? She had no idea, but he's big, and he keeps glancing toward that sedan across the street like they're working together. Another knock, louder this time, made Malik jump. Boom, boom, boom. Then a deep voice called through the door. "Naomi? Open the door. We need to talk." My entire body went numb. He knew my name. Renee grabbed my arm. "Don't you dare move." But the voice came again, this time sharper, like a threat wrapped in politeness. "Naomi, I know you're in there, and I'm not leaving." I swallowed the panic rising in my throat. "Renee, how do they even know where I am?" She shook her head. "I don't know, but they do." The man knocked again, and this time he tried the doorknob. The metal rattled violently. Renee's eyes widened. She mouthed, "He's trying to get in." She pulled out her phone to dial 911, but before she could hit call, the man spoke again, louder, angrier, and far too certain. "I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to talk about Marcus." Every muscle in my body seized. Marcus. He had to be connected to the loan, the threats, the people following us. Renee grabbed my shoulders. "Don't say a word. Don't respond." But I could hear Malik whimper behind me, trying not to cry, and something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to let these men terrorize us. I wasn't going to let Malik grow up thinking we had to hide from every shadow. I stepped forward. Renee hissed, "Naomi?" and grabbed for my arm, but I slipped past her. I moved toward the door slowly, cautiously, until I was close enough to raise my voice without shouting. "Who are you?" I said. The man paused. Then he replied, calm and clear, "My name is Darius. I work for the people Marcus owes." Renee muttered a curse under her breath. Darius continued, "I'm not here to hurt you, but you need to open this door now." My stomach twisted. "If you want to talk through the door." A long, tense silence followed. Then Darius said something that made my knees go weak. "Naomi, Marcus told you you knew where he was." My breath hitched. "What?" I whispered. "He said he gave you everything. Addresses, phone numbers, contacts, that he trusted you to keep it safe." My blood ran cold. Renee's eyes widened. "Naomi, what is he talking about?" "I don't know." But then memory flickered. 2 weeks ago, Marcus dropping off that old duffel bag, saying it had paperwork he needed me to hold on to, not to open it, not to tell anyone about it. Oh God, the bag in my hall closet. I hadn't opened it, but Marcus had said, "If anything ever happens to me, you keep that bag safe." I didn't realize until this moment that the bag might be exactly what these men were looking for, and exactly why they were following me. Darius knocked once more, softer this time. "Open the door, Naomi, before this gets worse." My pulse thundered in my ears. Renee squeezed my arm, whispering urgently, "Don't you dare open that door. Call the police now." I backed away slowly, torn between two dangerous choices: call for help or run. Because one thing was clear, these men weren't going anywhere. And whatever was inside that duffel bag, it was about to ruin everything.
I didn't sleep at all that night. Even after Darius left, after pacing the porch for another 10 minutes, after speaking quietly with the man in the sedan, after both cars finally drove off, my body stayed locked in this trembling awareness, like danger might seep through the walls if I dared to blink for too long. Renee kept the kids in their room. She and I sat at her kitchen table, lights low, phones face down, every sound making us jump. I stared at my hands, noticing they wouldn't stop shaking. "Renee, I can't keep running like this." She rubbed her forehead. "Naomi, I know, but until we figure out what's in that bag and why these men want it, I don't want to open it," I whispered, voice tight. "Marcus told me not to. Marcus is the reason you're in this mess," she shot back.
I flinched. I knew she was right, but hearing it still hurt. I know, I murmured, blinking fast. He's my brother. Renee leaned close, and he's using you as a shield. I dropped my head into my hands, trying to steady my breathing. Every memory of Marcus kept running through my mind. The goofy kid who protected me in school, the teenager who swore he'd always look out for me, the grown man who'd slowly become a stranger, living in secrets and shadows. And now those secrets had come crashing into my life. I have to look, I whispered. I need to know what I'm up against. Renee hesitated, then nodded. If we do this, we do it carefully. We walked to her guest room, where I'd stuffed the duffel bag under the bed. It looked harmless from the outside. Faded canvas, frayed handles, the zipper slightly rusted from age, but my gut clenched tighter the longer I looked at it. Renee pulled on gloves, actual yellow dish gloves, and handed me a pair, just in case. I put them on, exhaling shakily. Then slowly, I unzipped the duffel bag. Inside was a thick stack of envelopes. Not clothes, not tools, not anything normal, just envelope after envelope, rubber banded in groups, stuffed full of paper. Renee reached in first, carefully lifting one. These aren't bills, she murmured. She pulled the papers out, eyes widening. Naomi, these are loan contracts. My stomach twisted. Loan contracts? Not from banks, she said, flipping through. These are private, high interest, predatory. Some illegal. I grabbed another envelope. Different handwriting, different signatures, different fake names. But one thing showed up on every page. Marcus's signature. My breath caught. He took out loans using fake identities? Renee nodded grimly. These aren't just debts. This is fraud, Naomi. Federal fraud. My throat feigned. He told those men I knew where he was. He told them I had this because as long as they think you know something, they'll keep looking for you instead of him, she whispered. My knees buckled and I sat on the edge of the bed. It made horrifying sense. Marcus wasn't just hiding. He had used me deliberately as the bait. I pressed my hands to my face. I can't believe he'd do this to me. Renee sat next to me. I can, and we need a plan. What plan? I asked, voice cracking. I'm drowning in debt because of him. My name is ruined. People are following me. And if I take this to the police, what if they think I'm involved? What if child services comes after me? What if... She grabbed my shoulders firmly. Stop. Breathe. I tried. Failed. Tried again. A shaky inhale finally made it into my lungs. Renee squeezed my arms. You are not going to break. You have survived worse. You don't fall apart. You fight. That's who you are. Her words steadied me just enough. I wiped my eyes. So what do? We start with the truth. We take this to someone who can help. A lawyer, maybe. Someone who understands this kind of crime. A lawyer. The thought made my stomach clench, but it was better than running. I can't afford a lawyer, I whispered. You can afford not to. We packed the envelopes back into the duffel bag and zipped it shut. But before we could stand, Renee froze. Did you hear that? I went still. There, faint at first, then clearer. The sound of a car engine idling too close. Then headlights swept across the living room window. Renee pulled me back into the shadows. Oh God, I whispered. They're back. The car door opened. Footsteps. Heavy. Slow. My heart pounded so loudly I was certain they could hear it from outside. Renee peered out the corner of the curtain. Her breath hitched. It's not the same man from earlier. This one looks angry. The footsteps approached the porch. Then a sharp, violent pounding filled the house. Boom, boom, boom. A deeper voice thundered through the door. Naomi Ward, open this door. You have something that belongs to us. Renee grabbed my hand. I grabbed the duffel bag. And just like that, everything spiraled into the kind of danger I wasn't sure we could outrun.
I didn't realize I was holding my breath until Renee yanked me backward, pulling me toward the hallway. Move, Naomi, she hissed. He's not leaving. The pounding on the front door grew louder. So loud, the picture frames on the wall trembled. I clutched the duffel bag to my chest, my arms tightening around it, like it was the only thing keeping me alive. Boom, boom, boom. Then the man shouted again, Naomi Ward, we know you're inside. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Renee whispered, we're going out the back. now. But Malik, my kids are already awake. She said, they're getting their shoes on. Come on. I followed her down the hallway. My heart thudded so violently, I could barely hear anything else. The kids were standing by the back door, eyes wide, terrified but silent, because Renee had raised them to understand that danger doesn't always give you time to fall apart. She nodded to them. Stay close behind me. The pounding on the front door stopped. Silence. Too much silence. I froze. Renee, where did he go? She took one slow step toward the window, then jerked back. Oh God, she whispered. He's coming around the side. I could hear the footsteps in the gravel outside. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Coming straight toward the back door. We have to go now, I whispered, my voice barely a breath. Renee's hand shook as she twisted the lock. She swung the door open, and cold night air rushed inside. We slipped out as quietly as we could. We didn't even take the steps. We jumped straight into the backyard grass. The wind whipped against my face. My legs felt weak, but adrenaline carried me all the way across the yard. Renee grabbed her kids' hands. We crouched behind the tool shed while the footsteps grew louder. He had reached the porch. I could see the shadow of his body stretching across the back door. Renee mouthed, "Don't breathe." Then the doorknob rattled. He was trying to get in. Renee's daughter whimpered softly. I pressed a hand over her ear and whispered, "You're okay, baby," even though I wasn't sure any of us were. I could hear the man's voice clearer now, low, simmering with frustration. "You're making this a whole lot worse." He tried the doorknob again, then again, harder. Renee and I exchanged one look. "Run." She gestured toward the side gate. I nodded. We moved in a crouch, keeping our bodies low. My arms burned from holding the duffel bag so tightly, but I didn't dare loosen my grip. We slipped through the shadows, heading toward the gate. Crack. A loud noise echoed across the yard. The back door had given way. He was inside. Renee grabbed her kid's wrists and whispered, "Go, now." We ran, sprinting for the gate, the cold air slicing into my lungs. I fumbled with the latch, my fingers trembling so badly it slipped twice before finally unlatching. We burst into the alley. "Where's your car?" I panted. "2 houses down," Renee whispered. "Keep low." We ran along the fence line, sticking to the shadows. My chest felt tight, but I held on. I wasn't losing this fight without trying. But as we neared the car, headlights flashed on. A different vehicle, parked, waiting. Renee sucked in a breath. "They're watching the street." Dead end. We were trapped between the alley and a lookout car. "Okay," Renee whispered, trying to steady herself. "Backyard. We'll cut through Mrs. Jenkins." But she didn't finish, because a voice came from the street, soft, too calm. "Naomi, I see you." I froze. My blood turned to ice as the man stepped out between 2 parked cars. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in dark clothes that blended into the night. His face was shadowed, but I could see the glint of something metallic at his side. My breath caught in my throat. Renee stepped in front of her kids. "Stay behind me." The man lifted his chin. "I don't want the woman or the kids. I just need what Marcus took." His eyes slid to the duffel bag in my arms. My grip tightened instinctively. "This isn't mine, and I don't." He took one slow step toward us. "You're going to hand over that bag, and then you're going to give me the addresses Marcus gave you." I swallowed hard. "I don't have any addresses." "Wrong answer." He reached into his pocket, and just as panic shot up my spine, someone shouted from down the alley, "Hey, leave them alone!" The man turned his head sharply. A neighbor stood outside with his phone raised, filming. "Police are on their way!" The man glared at me, fury burning in his eyes. "This isn't over." Then he turned and jogged to the waiting car. The door slammed. The engine roared. The car sped off with a screech that echoed down the entire block. Renee grabbed my arm. "Come on, inside, now." We hurried across the yard, adrenaline still shaking our limbs. But even as we rushed back into the safety of a neighbor's house, even as the door locked behind us, even as the neighbor called 911, my mind raced around one truth. Marcus wasn't just in trouble. He had put my life and the life of everyone I loved on the line. And now these men knew where to find me, which meant this nightmare was far from over.
The police finally arrived 30 minutes later, long after the car had vanished, long after the danger had slithered back into the night like it owned the shadows. 2 officers came inside, asking questions, taking notes, trying to piece together what happened, but I could feel it the whole time. They didn't believe the full danger we were in. Renee did most of the talking, pacing and gesturing with her hands the way she does when she's furious. These men tried to break into my house. They knew her name. They followed her here. Are y'all listening? One of the officers nodded calmly. Ma'am, we understand. But without a clear description of the suspect or license plate, our hands are a bit tied. I swallowed hard, clutching the duffel bag in my lap. Renee shot him a glare sharp enough to cut steel. So you want them to kill her first before you take it seriously? The younger officer stepped in. We're filing a report. We'll increase patrol in the area, but we need more information from Miss Ward. I felt their eyes on me. I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't ready to admit out loud what Marcus had done, but lying would only bury me deeper. I have reason to believe, I began slowly, that my brother, Marcus Ward, has been involved in illegal borrowing, loans, maybe fraud, and I think he used my name to take out a $68,000 debt. The older officer sat forward. You're saying your brother committed identity fraud using your information? I nodded stiffly. And what's in the bag? My breath hitched. Documents, contracts, envelopes. I haven't opened them fully, but I think they're tied to the people who came after me. The room fell quiet. Renee put a hand on my back, steadying me. The officer glanced toward his partner. Miss Ward, this might be bigger than a patrol issue. This sounds like organized loan shark activity. A cold shiver ran through me. The younger officer lowered his voice. Look, these men don't ask twice. If they're already showing up at homes, they're escalating. Renee threw her arms up. That's what we've been telling you. The officers exchanged a look, the kind where both men silently agreed something was beyond their pay grade. We'll file the report, the older one finally said. But you need to speak with a fraud attorney as soon as possible. And you? He looked straight at me. Shouldn't go home for a while. I nodded. I know. After they left, Renee locked the door and slid the deadbolt twice. The house felt too quiet, too fragile. Like one wrong breath could make it crumble. Renee's kids were sitting together on the couch, wide-eyed and scared. Seeing them like that hurt in a way I didn't have words for. This can't go on, Naomi. You need someone on your side who knows the law. A real lawyer, not just Google and prayer. I sighed, exhausted. I don't have money for that. You don't have money not to, she said firmly. Please, let me help you. I looked at her, at the worry in her eyes, at the way her hands shook just slightly. I had dragged her into this mess. Her kids, her home, her safety, and she hadn't once blamed me. I'll go, I said quietly. Tomorrow. Her shoulders loosened a little. Good. But even after we settled the kids back to bed, even after the lights dimmed, even after Renee went upstairs to rest, I stayed awake on the couch, staring at the duffel bag like it might explode. My chest felt too tight. My mind refused to slow down. Marcus had trusted me with something dangerous, but he hadn't protected me. He'd used me. He'd thrown me into the fire so he could slip away in the smoke. Why? What had he gotten mixed up in? What else had he lied to me about? Around 3 a.m., I stood up and quietly carried the duffel bag to the kitchen table. A lamp was still on, throwing a warm circle of light over the wood. I unzipped the bag again, stacks of envelopes, contracts, fake signatures, fake birthdays, fake employers, dozens of identities Marcus had used. My hands trembled as I opened another envelope. This one was different. Newer paper, crisp edges, and at the top, borrower, Naomi Ward. My breath stuttered. It was the $68,000 loan. My name, my address, my social security number, my forged signature. I felt sick. But the worst part wasn't the loan itself. It was the note scribbled on the back in Marcus's handwriting. If anything happens, Naomi will know what to do. Tears blurred my vision. Know what to do? I didn't know anything. I didn't know who these men were. I didn't know how far Marcus had run. I didn't know if he was alive or dead. I didn't know why he'd chosen me, trusted me, sacrificed me in the middle of this criminal chaos. All I knew was this: someone was out there hunting for him, and if they couldn't find Marcus, they were coming for me instead. As I wiped my face, I heard footsteps from the stairs. Renee walked into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes. "You okay?" I shook my head. "No." She sat down beside me and squeezed my hand. And in that quiet moment, that fragile slice of calm, a sudden, violent banging shattered the silence. Not on the front door, not the back door, but the window. A harsh voice hissed through the glass. "Naomi, open up." My blood turned to ice. They were back. Again. But this time, they weren't alone. There were 3 shadows outside.
Renee gasped and grabbed my arm. They found us again? How did they find us this fast? I didn't have an answer. My heartbeat thrashed in my chest, loud enough I felt it in my teeth. There were 3 distinct shadows outside the window, silhouettes shifting and pacing like wolves circling a weak spot in the fence. One of them tapped the glass with something metallic. Tap, tap, tap. "Naomi," he called again, voice low and cold. "You don't want us to come in. Open the window." I shook my head violently. No. Renee, your kids. They're still asleep," she whispered. "We have to get them out, now." Another voice outside chimed in, deeper and angrier. "She has the bag. Boss wants the bag. We're not leaving without it." My throat tightened until I could barely swallow. "Renee, they're gonna break in." She wasn't listening. She was already moving. She grabbed her keys, snatched her phone, and pointed toward her staircase. "Wake the kids," she whispered sharply. "I'll distract them." "No," I hissed. "You're not going near that window." But before I could finish, one of the men slammed his fist against the glass so hard the entire window rattled in its frame. I froze. Renee didn't. "Go, Naomi," she said fiercely. "Get Malik and Daria. We're leaving through the garage." I ran. My legs felt like they were made of thick, pulsing fear, but they carried me up the stairs. I slipped into the kids' room and gently shook them awake. "Baby, wake up," I whispered to Malik. "It's Mommy. We have to go." He blinked groggily. "Mama, why are you crying?" I wiped my face fast. "I'm not. We need to leave right now, okay?" Daria sat up immediately, sensing the tension. "Is it the bad men again?" I nodded once. "But we're gonna be okay. Stay quiet. Get your shoes on." Downstairs, I heard a man's voice shouting, "We're not playing games." Then the unmistakable sound of something heavy slamming into the siding of the house. I swallowed panic and ushered the kids out of their room. When we reached the stairs, Renee stood at the bottom gripping a knife. "Okay, garage. Now." She led us down the hallway as quietly as possible. Every step felt like it echoed through every room, and maybe it did, because the moment we reached the garage door, someone outside shouted, "They're moving! Back door!" My blood ran cold. Renee hissed, "Go, go, go!" We slipped through the garage door and closed it behind us. The darkness inside was thick and cold. Renee's car sat waiting, like the last lifeboat on a sinking ship. She hit the button to open the garage door. The motor groaned. The door creaked. And then headlights flooded in from the driveway. A car was parked directly outside the garage, blocking us in. A man stepped in front of the headlights, his shadow stretching across the concrete like a monster stepping into the light. Renee covered her mouth. God, they were waiting. He approached slowly, dragging something metallic along the ground, scraping, echoing. When he reached the threshold of the garage, he leaned down slightly and grinned. "There she is." Malik whimpered and clung to my leg. I pushed him behind me, heart hammering so loudly I could barely hear anything else. The man tilted his head. "Naomi, we can do this the easy way. Hand over the bag, tell us where Marcus is, and nobody gets hurt." "I don't know where he is," I whispered. He nodded once, as if expecting that answer. "Then give me the bag." From behind him, the other 2 men flanked both sides of the garage. Renee gripped her knife so tightly her knuckles turned white. "You're not coming in here." The men smirked. "Ma'am,
I've been coming in since the moment she borrowed that money. My stomach twisted. I clutched the duffel bag tighter to my chest. It's not mine. I didn't borrow anything. My brother. Your brother doesn't matter. You do. He stepped forward. Renee stepped in front of me. You're not taking her. He raised a hand, and the other two men moved in closer. I backed up, gripping Malik's hand with my free one, trying to shield him behind me. Stop! I shouted. There are kids here. The man kept walking. He didn't care. He didn't care about kids. He didn't care about me. He didn't care about anything except what Marcus owed. And in that moment, something inside me changed. Fear peeled back. Something harder rose in its place. Not anger, not panic, resolve. I stepped forward slowly, placing myself between Renee, the kids, and the men. Fine, I said, voice trembling but loud. You want the bag? Then you talk to me, not them. The lead man grinned, satisfied, like he'd won. He stepped forward, then suddenly, bright blue light flooded in the garage. Sirens roared. Police cars screeched into the driveway. The men froze. Renee exhaled a single broken sob of relief. The lead man cursed under his breath. Y'all must really love trouble. One of the officers yelled, hands where we can see them. Chaos erupted. Men running, officers shouting, one suspect sprinting down the side yard, another jumping over the fence, the lead man bolting back into the car, blocking us in. The engine roared. Lights flashed. Tires screeched. He sped off, nearly clipping an officer in the process. Seconds later, 2 more patrol cars tore after him in a chase so loud it shook the air. For a moment, I stood there frozen, shaking so violently I could barely stand upright. Renee grabbed my shoulders. Naomi, are you okay? I looked at her, then at Malik, then at the bag in my hands. No, I whispered, and this isn't over, because the look in that man's eyes before he ran, that wasn't defeat. It was a promise that he'd be back. And this time, he wouldn't be running from the police. He'd be coming for me.
The police swarmed the driveway, flashlights cutting through the early morning darkness. Renee held her kids close while an officer guided us out of the garage and into the living room. My hands were still shaking. I clutched the duffel bag to my chest like a life vest, even though it was the very thing dragging me into deep water. Ma'am, we need to ask you a few questions, one officer said gently. Renee stepped in instantly. She just got attacked in my home. Can't this wait? The officer softened. We just need a statement. The sooner we understand what's going on, the safer we can keep everyone. Safer. The words sounded impossible now. I sat on the couch, Malik curled up against my side, Daria sitting protectively on Renee's lap. The officer flipped open his notebook. Start from the beginning. Why are these men after you? I swallowed hard. They think I have something that belongs to them. Do you? I hesitated. Renee looked at me, eyes wide and confused. Naomi, the bag? What's it? My throat tightened. I haven't opened it. The officer's eyebrow lifted. You've been carrying it around without looking inside? I nodded, embarrassed and afraid. It's Marcus's. He disappeared. These men think I know where he is. The officer leaned forward slightly. And do you? Tears stung my eyes. No, I have no idea where he went. I just woke up one morning and my credit was destroyed. Loans I never signed for, accounts emptied. He forged everything. Then he vanished, Renee whispered. Oh, Naomi. The officer scratched notes on his pad. These men said he borrowed money. Any idea from who? I shook my head. No. Marcus kept secrets like they were currency. He nodded slowly. All right. Then I'm going to ask something important. I need you to hand over that bag. My arms tightened around it instinctively. Is that safe? If you're telling the truth, he said calmly, then what's in that bag is evidence. Evidence? My stomach twisted. Evidence of what? I finally loosened my grip and placed the duffel bag on the coffee table. The officer put on gloves. Renee squeezed my hand as he unzipped it. The moment the zipper opened, the air changed. The officer blinked. Renee gasped. I felt my pulse stutter. Inside were stacks of cash, wrapped, rubber-banded, pristine. Next to them were several envelopes and something heavy wrapped in a dish towel. The officer reached for the towel-covered object and unwrapped it slowly. A gun. My heart dropped. Renee whispered, "Oh my God," but the officer wasn't done. He pulled out the envelopes and flipped one over.
My breath caught. My name was written on the front in Marcus's handwriting. The officer paused. "You want to open that, ma'am?" I reached for it with trembling fingers. Inside was a single folded sheet of paper. I opened it, and everything inside me went cold. "Naomi, if you're reading this, it means I messed up worse than you can imagine. I didn't mean for them to come after you, but you're the only one I can trust. Don't talk to the police. Don't trust anyone, and whatever you do, don't let them find me. M." My hands shook so violently, the paper rattled. The officer held out his hand. "Ma'am, I need to take that." I pulled the letter closer. "No, this is my brother, and it's evidence," he repeated firmly. "This is now a criminal investigation." Renee stood up suddenly. "Wait, she's the victim here. You're treating her like she did something wrong." The officer held up a hand. "Nobody's accusing her of anything, but this is serious. There's cash, a weapon, and a letter telling her not to cooperate with law enforcement. This is dangerous for everyone involved." I whispered. "He knew they'd come after me." "He set you up," Renee said, voice trembling with anger. "Your own brother set you up." I didn't argue. I didn't defend him. I didn't say a single word, because deep down, I knew she was right. The officer zipped the bag back up. "We're taking this into evidence, and ma'am, you and your friend will need protection. These men aren't amateurs." My breath caught. "Protection? What does that mean?" "It means," he said carefully, "that you're not going home tonight." Renee moved closer to me, wrapping her arm around my shoulders. "Naomi, you're staying here. My home is yours." But the officer shook his head. "I'm sorry. After the attack tonight, this location is compromised. You all need to come with us." Renee's eyes widened. "All of us?" "Yes. Until we know who these men are and why they want Marcus so badly, none of you are safe." Malik's small voice broke through the tension. "Mommy, are we in trouble?" I bent down, hugging him tightly. "No, baby. We're just going somewhere safe for a little while." "Like a hotel?" I forced a smile. "Something like that." But inside, fear twisted into something sharp and bitter. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't going away. Marcus didn't just leave me with debt. He left me in the middle of something dangerous, something criminal, something far bigger than either of us understood. And now, I wasn't running from the debt anymore. I was running from whoever my brother owed, and they were willing to kill for it. When they moved us into the safe house, it didn't feel real at first. The place looked like an ordinary rental. Neutral walls, bland furniture, 2 clean carpets, but underneath it all was the hum of surveillance equipment and the constant check-ins from officers stationed outside. My kids tried to settle in, but Malik kept asking if the bad men were coming back. Daria stayed close to Renee's side, her eyes quiet and watchful. And me? I sat by the window most of that first night, staring out into the dark, wondering how someone who shared my blood could leave me in a nightmare like this. But by the second day, something inside me shifted. I was tired of feeling hunted, tired of reacting, tired of letting Marcus's choices drag me deeper into fear. So when Detective Rios knocked on the bedroom door and asked if I was ready to talk, I surprised both of us by saying, "Yes, but only if you tell me everything." He exhaled slowly, then gestured for me to join him at the small dining table. A file sat open, photos scattered across it, crime scene shots, arrest records, surveillance stills. Renee hovered at my shoulder, refusing to leave me alone. Detective Rios tapped a photo of a tattooed man. "This is the one who tried to break into your friend's house." My chest tightened. "Who is he?" "He's a collector," Rio said. "He works for a private underground lender. They don't use banks. They use threats." My breath caught. "So Marcus owed them money?" Rios nodded grimly. "A lot of it. And he used your identity as collateral." My stomach twisted. "Collateral? What does that even mean in a situation like this?" "It means," Rios said carefully, "that if he disappeared, they would come for whoever he tied into the paperwork. And he told them you were his partner." My mouth went dry. "What did he do?" Rios slid a document toward me. My name was sprawled beside Marcus's signature. Fake, forged, but official looking enough to fool anyone not checking too hard.
Renee shook her head, stunned. Your own brother tied you to criminals. I felt something crack inside me. Not the fragile, frightened kind of break, but the sharp, clean snap of clarity. I whispered, he didn't just ruin my credit. He didn't just run. He handed me over. Rios held up a hand. The good news, now that we've recovered the duffel bag, we're in a position to dismantle the group he borrowed from. But we need your cooperation. I hesitated. What about Marcus? Have you found him? Rios looked away for a beat. We've gotten a lead. A strong one. My pulse kicked up. Where is he? Atlanta. He's been staying with a woman there for several weeks. We believe he plans to flee the country soon. My heart dropped, not because I wanted him back, but because I couldn't believe how far he'd gone. Does he know these men are coming after me? I asked softly. Rios nodded. He knows exactly what he did. Renee let out a furious breath, pacing the room. So what happens now? Rios folded his hands. Now we bring him in and we clear your name officially. But we can't force your cooperation. You have to choose it. I looked at my kids, their small bodies curled on the couch, their entire lives shaken by choices they didn't make. I took a deep breath, a full, steady breath I hadn't felt in weeks. I said, I'll cooperate, but I want one thing. Rios raised an eyebrow. What's that? I want to look him in the eye when you take him away. 2 days later, they flew us to Atlanta. The safe house there was smaller, quieter. I stayed awake the entire night before the planned arrest. My mind kept replaying old memories. Me braiding Marcus's hair before school, him begging me to cover for him when he got in trouble, him hugging me after Mom died and promising we'd stick together forever. Forever didn't last, not even close. At dawn, they escorted me to the unmarked van. When the team piled in, vests strapped, radios clipped, tension thick in the air, I felt a strange calm settle over me. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of the truth. I was walking toward it. The house where Marcus was hiding was small, yellow painted, one of those homes that looked too fragile for the weight of secrets inside it. The SWAT team moved in first. I watched from the van window, my breath shallow but steady. Then, a shout. A flash of movement, a struggle at the doorway, and out they came. Marcus stumbled as 2 officers held him by the arms. His face was thinner, his clothes rumpled, but his eyes, those eyes I grew up with, were exactly the same, except now they widened in shock when they saw me. Naima, he croaked, stumbling forward before the officers tightened their grip. What are you doing here? I stepped out of the van, my heart pounding. I'm here because you made me your escape plan. He shook his head desperately. I was gonna fix it. I just needed time. You forged my name, I said quietly. You destroyed my credit. You put my kids in danger. You had criminals coming after me. He didn't think they'd really, he started, but I cut him off. That's the problem, Marcus. You didn't think, and you never once thought about what this would do to me. He stared at me, something like remorse flickering in his eyes. Too little, too late. The officers began pulling him toward the waiting car. Naima, he shouted, voice cracking. I'm your brother. Please. Don't let them take me. Tears rose, but they weren't for him. They were for the woman I had once been, the woman who might have crumbled, the woman who believed saving him was the same as saving myself. But I wasn't her anymore. You took yourself away, I said softly, and they closed the door on him. The months that followed were long, but they were mine. The charges against me were dropped. My identity was restored. The debt wiped clean. Therapists helped my kids sleep again. Financial counselors helped me rebuild. Renee made sure I never spent a single day alone. By summer, I was approved for a small business grant. I opened my salon again. I breathed again. But the part of the journey I treasure most, the part that softened the hard places inside me, was the day I realized
realized I didn't need an apology from Marcus to move forward. I needed forgiveness from myself. I earned it with every sunrise, every healed wound, every new beginning. I fought my way out of the darkness he dragged me into, and I won. If you learned something new from my life story, please like this video, subscribe for more stories like mine, and comment down below where you're watching this video from. I'd truly love to know.